Shut up and sit down.
Welcome back to yet another Tiki session from Kon-Tiki Boat Bar in Portrush. As always, Stuart Cullen from Rawee Board Company, and with me, Ash as usual. Ash, what's the crack, mate?
I am good, thanks, man. I am pretty excited about having a bit of a local legend in with us tonight. My kids call him the ukulele guy. I'm quite excited. They've learned how to play ukulele. Well, they're learning how to play ukulele based on Dave Hamill's YouTube videos during coronavirus. So Dave, I'm stoked to have you on board here, man. I've made you a lovely pina colada here. So it's a mixture of coconut, rum, fresh pineapple juice. I hope you enjoy it, man.
Thank you very much, bro.
Kon-Tiki.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me.
No problem. So Dave, Ash is saying there his kids know you as the ukulele man. What's the crack with that?
Do you know, like, it's so funny to picture that people see the videos that you put out of just little simple things that you do that you enjoy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I picked up a ukulele maybe 5-6 years ago for the first time. And I've just fell in love with it since, really.
And have you never played any like guitars?
Oh, I've played guitar and stuff like heaps in my life, but yeah. I dabbled with ukulele whenever I was younger, if you can dabble at a ukulele, but yeah.
What sort of attracts you to ukulele, without going on a huge tangent here, but like as opposed to guitar?
Okay, it is going to be a huge tangent, I'm afraid.
Go for it.
So I knew this girl from Belfast, and whenever I went round to her house one day, I saw this ukulele sitting beside the fireplace, a little white ukulele. I've still got her. She's called Jennifer.
Nice.
And I fell.
Is this the girl from Belfast or the ukulele?
This is the ukulele. The ukulele's called Jennifer.
Jennifer made the grade, but the other girl didn't.
Pretty much, eh? But yeah, I fell in love with Jennifer, and yeah, Jennifer left the house with me that night.
Brilliant.
And I've never looked back, really.
This is sort of like, you know, that scene in Full Metal Jacket when they name the guns and stuff. And, this is my gun, that's your uke.
Yeah.
And Jennifer travels everywhere with you. I've seen the videos and you play her in your van. And
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
We walked up the aisle to, you probably know him, the guy called, I think it's Israel Kamenofsky. It's like a big Hawaiian dude that plays Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Israel Kamak Awiwo Ule.
There you go.
Yeah, I had to learn how to say it.
It's a cool song.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Maybe we could do that as an edited over feature for this.
We could get Dave to do some music for us as well. And then Eddie Vedder as well. He from Pearl Jam. He released a uke album, so he did as well, which was really sort of left wing for him. But
it was
again,
really left wing.
You know, really cool album, really good album as well. You know. So Dave, what do you do for a living?
I'm an arborist.
Right. The reason I asked you what you did for a living is because he told me 3 times before we started this interview, and I cannot say that. So
Yeah.
So
a few people have difficulty with it. Eh?
Yeah. So what is that?
So an arborist is someone who learns about and cares for trees, and it's a bit of a broad spectrum of different jobs inside the industry. So there's consultants that give opinions about trees or they judge tree health. There's people that work on trees. People that research trees, so that there's lots of different jobs. I'm a climbing arborist, and I teach people how to climb trees these days.
Wow, cool.
And use chainsaws and stuff.
Is that different to rope access? Is that the same, or is there a bit of an overlap there?
It's very much different. Now we do get quite a lot of rope access guys coming into tree work, and I think they find it quite difficult or quite different because it's very one way in rope access, whereas trees are 3D living beings that we're working on, you know. So there's lots more to learn than just the harnesses and ropes. And
I have a couple of mates, actually. One worked as a rope access in Belfast, and he now has set up his own company out in Australia. Spends a lot of time in the outback doing quarries and stuff, but like it's an insane job. And I imagine if, like as you say, it's more 2D almost. Sorry for doing you down here, Rory, but yours with it being 3D and harder to work with trees, maybe there's something going on inside them.
Well, there's the 3D aspect and the fact that they're living. Plus, we're making tons of timber move at times. You know, like last year, I took a 10-ton section out of a tree from about 60 foot height.
Wow.
So
there's a lot of planning that goes into that.
Yeah. A lot of planning, a lot of knowledge and experience to get to that sort of level of being able to do that sort of thing, you know.
One of the things I love about you is you do a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of Facebook videos, and there was one that you did, and you were taking a tree down in a lady's back garden, and her kid, I think, was filming you doing it from inside their conservatory, and this tree was huge, but the gap between the fence where the tree was and the conservatory was about the width of the tree and another inch and a half. You know, it was a tiny gap.
It was maybe from here to you, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm watching it, and it's like, you know, I know Dave's really good at what he does, but I'm going, that's going to hit the conservatory. There's no way that can come
It was
down.
the bit whenever the mum said, "Kids come back from the window."
Yeah,
Do you know, like
no confidence in him.
But yeah, exactly. I was thinking to myself, do you think I'm going to hit your conservatory?
She's writing the check to Harry Hill now to send through that you've been freeing to come through
but
the conservatory.
The tree comes perfectly down, little bounce whenever it hits the ground, settles, and you just see Dave happy as Larry as always. So how do you plan that? Like with that amount of precision, you know, obviously you know where to cut. What's the process in that?
Oh, that's a big question, I guess, again. But the process is risk assessment, really. So we have to gauge what could go wrong and then plan against that. So that tree that you saw getting taken down, it looked like I was just pushing it over, but there was actually guys on a pulling rope that were making sure it went in the direction I wanted it to. You know.
Brilliant.
So
it's all smoke and mirrors.
Sometimes you don't see what goes on behind the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the
exactly. And how did you get into this?
So a lot of people ask me this question, and whenever I was 6 years old, I fell in love with Mount Sandal Forest, which is a local forest in Coleraine. And at the time, the Forestry Service were doing some work in the forest. They were felling like an entire section of this conifer plantation.
Yeah.
I was raging. I was really annoyed.
What age were you, man?
6 years old.
Right, okay,
so I like wrote a letter to the Forestry Service, demanding to find out like what were they doing to my forest and like what was going on. And I got a nice letter back. Explain
none of your business.
no. They explained what they were doing. They were going to turn, and that area now is what they turned it into. It's a wetland down by the River Bann. It's a wetland woodland with wetland species in it, and it's lovely to walk through.
Brilliant.
So I guess that's what really sort of gripped me in interest, and I realised there was an industry behind it, you know, and I could make a career out of it. But whenever I was maybe 13 or 14 years old, my uncle was getting some tree work done, and my dad took me along to have a look, or like he wanted to have a look or something. But I remember standing beside my dad, and I saw this guy up a tree, and he was whistling and singing and having the time of his life.
Awesome.
And I just thought to myself, wow. And I said to my dad, is that a proper job? Really, is it? And he went, yeah, that's a proper job. You'd be doing all right if you could do that sort of thing. And it stuck. So a couple of years later, I went to forestry college over in England, and I haven't really looked back.
And with regards to trees in the North Coast, I had a mate again who's now in Australia, but his job was, or one of his, his scientific reports was that he had to go and investigate juniper in the North Coast, and Juniper Hill. He wanted to see if there was actually juniper in Juniper Hill. But for me, I remember working in West Strand with Ricky at a live surf school, doing surf instructing. And when you've got spring tide and it pulls out a lot of sand, and you can see that ancient sort of woodland. Yeah, well, so that's an old school, like ancient forest, isn't it?
Yeah. Then there's quite a few dotted around Ireland. So like obviously the water level rose as the ice sheet retracted.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few submerged forests. There's a really quite famous one outside Galway, which keeps on just appearing whenever they get the proper lowest tides, and it's always a big sort of talking point down there.
Because I never knew that one at West Bay existed until I was doing a project with Discover Portrush and Swell Festival, which I videoed you for as well. And we were down there, and they're telling us about how basically at West Strand there used to be a forest, and you can't picture it, but then like you say, when the tide goes out, you can see it and you know what was really there, and you're just going, that's class.
I think it's so cool, and I think that living in the North Coast, I obviously have an insight into it, but like I think that in the modern day, like my kids both go to Millstrand, and they're out at the beach all the time, and they know more about that sort of local area than I do. And I think your work, moving on to another topic, is talking about your work with what's it called?
North Coast World Earth?
Yes, that's exactly it, North Coast World Earth.
Yeah.
And your sand art and stuff, and like you're vast becoming the ukulele, from the ukulele guy into the sand art and North Coast Earth guy. So it's brilliant to see what you're doing, man. So chat through a wee bit more about what you're actually achieving in sort of local area.
Well, I didn't set up North Coast World Earth. I got asked to come along and help. I've got a background in trees, obviously, in arboriculture, but I've also got a degree in environmental science, and cool. I'm a teacher as well. So like I teach people how to do tree work. So I guess I'm kind of good at relating to people or something. But yeah, I got brought on board, and now I'm going to be like the events manager, I guess, for it, because we're hoping that whenever all this calms down, that we can actually have maybe like a beach party or something, or some sort of community events. That, because I think that's the big thing for me. That, like we talked about this before, I think, but community, it's so important.
It's huge.
Yeah, at the minute, eh?
And we have, one of the things that keeps coming up in the Tiki sessions is that we are very lucky for living on the North Coast, is we have a phenomenal community here. You know, don't get me wrong, we have our problems the same way as everywhere does, but you know, community is very strong around here. And you know yourself, Dave, you know, I'm out the Strand, bump into you, stand and talk, bump into Ash, you know, and we were talking to Alan Simpson about this as well, about how whenever you go out for a walk, you can't say I'm going out for a quick walk, because you have to stop and talk to everybody every 20 yards, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So what...
But that's nice.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's lovely.
Yeah, it's great, because the way I look at it is there's so much crap in the world nowadays, we need to hold on to everything that's good, and you know, we are very lucky where we live, and you know, our kids growing up are going to be very lucky where we live.
For me, that's a big thing, and I think that love or hate, a lot of people don't, and it frustrates me how people have such a negative opinion of Greta Thunberg. But she's basically engaged the youth of today, and like with the stats recently were produced about how many schools are actually involved with their eco rangers, and like Mill Strand is up there. But every school in the North Coast region, you know, whatever side of the divide they're on or whatever it is, they're all coming together, and they've got this united interest in trying to clean up the North Coast, which is fucking class.
It's really good to get kids involved, of course, because they're going to be the future. Yeah. Do you know? And if we can try and shape their, not personalities, but their attitudes to the environment, that's it.
So what are North Coast Eco Rangers? Because I know this is a new initiative that's been launched in the last couple of months.
We launched the Eco Rangers primarily as an awareness group and a litter picking group, and that was going to be like a side wing of North Coast World Earth. And it's really taken off, and people have really got involved in it. It's so lovely to walk down like West Strand or East Strand and have total strangers, that people that I've never spoke to ever, come up to me, and whenever I'm doing sand art, I'm just out for a walk. Total strangers come up and say that they really love the Eco Rangers thing, that they're a member, or wow. I think that's crazy.
And it's so mad because, like, in my opinion, social media has its faults. But like a lot of us see, like people are coming up to me. Yesterday it happened to me when someone said, I was in paddleboard in the harbour with my kid, and somebody shouted out, "Great work in the Tiki sessions, we're loving them. Keep her lit." And it was just like,
so
but we're not the sort of person
to you?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But they're not the sort of person that would like or share or comment.
Hasn't bloody happened to me yet.
So I think an awful lot of people aren't comfortable with social media and aren't comfortable with being out there and putting themselves out. Someone actually said to me the other day, "You're very pro putting yourself out there on social media," and I went, "Am I? Is that what I do? Oh right, I'm just being me. Yeah, I didn't mean to do it."
Yeah. Which is lovely, man, and it seems like it's almost taking you by surprise that my kids know you.
Totally.
And you know, it's lovely, because I'm sure that we all have our negative connotations with social media, but it's lovely to hear the positivity in it as well. And actually, I think that's what we're trying to create with the Tiki sessions, and it's about collaboration and mostly about businesses and trying to get local influencers together to sort of help each other promote the North Coast, as opposed to that tribal element of, this is my wee bit and screw you, I'm going to keep going here and build this. And I think that why the North Coast is so refreshing from a business point of view is that people are willing to collaborate. And from what you're doing, man, I think it's really planting a seed with the youngsters. So fair play, man.
Thank you. You have, for all intents and purposes, you have become an influencer, which I know you probably don't want that, but
I do my monkey face.
I know. Oh! But
Paris Hilton.
It's like Dave and Paris Hilton. Now that would be a Tiki session, Dave and Paris Hilton together. But it's like I was saying to you before this, like I was driving through Coleraine today, and on the Milburn Road, which is one of the main thoroughfares through Coleraine, there's a family, a mother with a bin bag, clear bin bag full of plastic coffee cups, walking her dog, her 2 kids, and the young boy has a litter picker with him. And I'm just going, it's so nice to see that. Yeah. Now, I also, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, I also have the flip side of that. So we are a very busy tourist area. Yeah. Even during lockdown, we were
ridiculously busy.
Busy, as if there was no lockdown. And that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah, totally.
But, the council do their best. Businesses, try.
Well,
what would be your view on it all?
Okay, so back to community again. I think it's really, really positive. I've had so many people, again, people I don't necessarily know particularly well, or total strangers to me that are in business, approach me and tell me that they're really impressed with North Coast World Earth. They had no idea until they actually sat back and thought about it, that maybe they could do something better. Maybe they could, I don't know, have an environmental policy, or maybe they could like make little changes about their business.
Yeah.
And whenever I see businesses doing that as well, I'm like, wow. I think it's so positive that people are taking it on their own.
And they're taking responsibility for it. And it's funny because people just, it's a weird world we're living in, and people can be quite blinkered, and it's tough, like, because we all have to make ends meet, and we you know, we're in the sort of rat race, and people just get on with their own thing. And I think what you and Craig Wallace and the guys are doing is sort of highlighting, putting the spotlight on something different, and we're all sort of saying, well, fuck, we love the North Coast, and we need to sort of pull together, and if the council can't do it, maybe we could help out. And I think, as I say, you guys are doing a brilliant job. So
Thank you very much.
And one of the things I love about you, Dave, is I bumped into you one day. I was out filming at the White Rocks, and I had an owner of a large coffee chain with me, and you were chatting away to him, and straight away you're like, right, what can we do about these plastic coffee cups? You know.
So that owner of that coffee chain
Yeah.
is a really interesting guy, and he's made some real big moves himself
Yeah.
years ago, I think, to try and become more eco, to try and look after the environment more. Things like encouraging people to bring in their own mug, giving them, I think, a 50p, I can't remember exactly how much
Yeah.
it is, but giving them a discount for bringing in their own mug instead of giving a little paper mug that's PLA line, so there's a little bit of
Yeah.
plastic in it,
Yeah.
and it needs composted and all that crack. But I think it's so positive that people like that are already doing it. So whenever I meet people like that, I want to understand, like, can we maybe do more?
Yeah.
Can we maybe talk to other coffee shops, or can we set up a coffee shop federation? I don't know. Like, it's all just little ideas that buzz about in my head.
I think
just
yesterday
constantly.
even, like, there was something, I think it's an Irish company, are saying they will not give out coffee unless you bring in your, and I
saw
think
that.
that's next
Yeah.
level to say, you know.
I think that was in Dublin or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
And they had a photograph of a day's worth of coffee cups that they would have given out, and it
Yeah.
filled the entire floor base of their cafe.
And the concept, or the thought train they were on, was that whatever amount of coffee cups get used in Dublin every day, 90% of them don't get composted. They go to landfill.
Wow.
So, like, I leave the house every morning with a metal coffee flask.
Yeah.
That I quite like coffee. And yeah, every now and again I forget it. Every now and again it's not with me, and yeah, I want a coffee, and I might buy a cup of coffee or whatever. I don't expect everybody else in the world to do this. I don't have expectations of other people.
No.
I just want to go, hey, have you thought about it?
Yeah.
You see, that's the thing with Rawee. We obviously set that up during the lockdown as well, and at the start we were like, right, we need to be 100% eco-friendly, sustainable, etc., etc. And then we realized that as a startup, that is a pretty hard thing to be. So what we try to be is we try to constantly better ourselves, if we know what I mean, and while still keeping our product for our customers. And we certainly don't say that we're perfect, but at every stage and every step that we have, we look and we are mindful of the eco impact, and we're going, right, okay, so we're about to launch this product. What's the eco impact? What can we do to try and offset that as much as we can? And I think that's what it's about. I think it's about not trying to be perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. But it's about taking those steps to move forward. And if we do it, then the people behind us, like you're saying about the kids who are going to be the future, they'll do it more. Their kids will do it more. And it's setting that positive spin to try and reverse what we've been doing.
It's setting a nice tone, isn't
Yeah.
it? Do you know, like, I'm not a coffee shop owner. I'm not a clothing manufacturer. I'm not a clothing label designer or whatever. Do you know, like, I'm an arborist.
Yeah.
I know how to cut trees down.
Yeah.
And I know that might seem like a little bit of a, I don't know, contradiction in terms to be an environmentalist and to cut trees down. But hey, I cut sick trees down.
Yeah, exactly.
And I make timber sometimes as well to go in places like this and stuff. But I don't understand all these other businesses. I don't understand all these other economies and stuff. And I'm not going to sit and judge people based on that. But I think that would be wrong.
I think for me, it's like global companies can make a bigger effort. I know there are a few, like Brewdog pops to mind for me because they've just
They're making their forest.
they're making on top
Scotland,
of
isn't it?
Well, they've won in Scotland, but they're building their first ever. I think it's a hotel in Vegas, but they've got a forest on the roof of it.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
they're trying to be carbon neutral. So ultimately, people need to strive. People need to set the benchmark. And on a grand global scale, that's what the likes of Brewdog are doing, whatever. And on a local scale, that's exactly what you and Craig are doing. So, yeah.
And something else that's interesting. So you are the ukulele man.
Okay. I've a few talents.
You
Many
interests.
talents.
and
Yeah.
we're going to continue with this theme. You're the ukulele man. You're the sand art guy, or one of the sand art guys.
Yeah, definitely not the master.
Not the master, no. And now you're into refining your love of circus skills again. And I know you may have talked about this because I used to fire juggle and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But you're
Thank you very much, by the way, for encouraging me to stay at it, because there was a time last year that I was going, I'm just not going to progress. I'm just not going to get anywhere with this. And he really helped me.
Do you know what?
Are you fire juggle, man?
I used to fire juggle and fire
Jesus.
poi, and I saw Dave doing it, and he was like, "Is anyone any advice?" And I was like, "See, when you light them, it's not the heat and it's not the fire that's the scary part. It's the noise. So it is. It sounds like a wind turbine going past you." And I was like, "Just ignore the noise," which is really hard. But again, I would love to get back into it. But I know if I started fire juggling in the back garden with a 6-year-old, it would be the best thing to do.
There's a time and a place for fire juggling.
That's it. And I see videos online of you fire juggling, knife juggling, down beside the Arcadia in Portrush, and people are walking past and people are talking to you when you're doing it. I have to ask, and I have to be honest, because we ask these sorts of things. Do you ever do it? And I know the answer to this already. Do you ever do it for the attention, or are you solely doing it for yourself? And I know the answer to this already.
Well, then you know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
The answer is no.
No.
I'm not doing it for attention. So I like the Arcadia beats for it because it's really close to where I live.
Yeah.
And whenever I go juggle knives, I don't want to drop them on hard surfaces.
Yeah.
So I drop them in the sand.
Yeah, sweet.
Do you know, that's where I learned to juggle knives. Because I only bought juggling knives last year.
Right.
That was one of my lockdown things. And I bought them from a guy that handmade them in England.
Oh, wow.
And I'm still in touch with him. He's a really nice guy. I think he might make me some more. But they're kind of like big pirate knives or something. And they're so nice to juggle.
Like giant fish knives.
And have you ever had an accident, man?
They're not really that sharp. Don't tell
okay.
anybody.
They look really sharp. It's the same. It's the same with the fire juggling. Every now and again, whenever you're learning, you will go to catch the wrong end. But it's amazing how quick your reflexes are. You go to catch it and you come away from it like.
Well, if it's burning with something like kerosene, it's not going to be that hot anyway.
That's it. So, any other skills that you're practicing at the moment?
Well, I'm actually trying to practice my teaching skills with juggling.
Right.
Gavin Wallace, the guy that set up North Coast World Earth, I gave his daughter Gaia her first juggling lesson
No way, cool.
there on Friday. She's been quite interested in juggling. I brought some juggling balls up for her to give to her. And yeah, we started throwing balls between us. And do you know, we have to work on gross motor skills for sure, but
Yeah.
wow, the progression's so quick. And I've figured out little lesson plans in my head just from teaching a couple of people
The
juggling.
weirdest thing, man. Yesterday with my 7-year-old, the guy is, I think, in the same class as one of my kids, and we were juggling yesterday with toilet rolls.
Cool.
So it's quite. It's
They're quite big, eh?
It was good. It was kind of good, and they were getting it, and you could just see progress. And
Can you
stuff.
juggle?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, are you at the stage of juggling? Could we get 9 balls and juggling between us?
9 balls.
Probably
of
for part
vodka.
2 of Tiki sessions with Dave Hamill.
The
Tell me
circus
this,
skills.
man. The first time I ever met you was, and we didn't speak, but I remember bodyboarding with you years ago with Chris Martin, and back at the time when bodyboarding was starting to be uncool and everyone was surfing, and it's strange, in my opinion, there's a lot more bodyboarders in the lineup these days than there ever was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it seems to be. I think there's an awful lot more surfers too, so it's probably just the same percentages. Maybe I don't know, but
no, it's weird because I can surf, but my knees just don't take a good session anymore. But with bodyboarding, I just get so much more stoke from bodyboarding these days. Are you still bodyboarding? Or
yeah, still bodyboarding. I actually bought myself a hand plane
Nice.
maybe 2 years ago. I did the long line surf school hand plane competition one winter, maybe 3 years ago,
Nice.
and really loved it.
Cool.
And I've been hand planing before, so
And with fins, you're going
yeah, with fins.
And would you rather go in with a hand plane than a bodyboard? Or
Recently, yeah.
No way.
Recently, I've been going to Arcadia left whenever it's been working. And yeah, it's been really good fun.
Cool.
I've also been struggling from a shoulder injury over this winter, which has really held me back. But it's just nice to get in the water sometimes.
Do you know what's funny?
Even
like,
if you can't paddle.
Nah, exactly. And I think when you get to a certain age and you're starting to ache and creak a wee bit, it's like, what can I do?
Exactly.
Like stand-up paddleboarding for me is something that I'm really enjoying. And
Dave is an award-winning stand-up paddleboarder.
no way.
Yeah.
So yeah, you came third.
I came third, yeah.
In, what was it called again?
It was the 2014 Irish National Distance Championships, I think it was, in Mullockmore.
And did you put much practice in for that?
Zero. I'd never stood in a SUP before. That was my first SUP
Who were you up against, man?
expedition. It was a couple of dudes. Actually, Jono from one of the Circus Skills around here was in one of the races. It was the amateur section that I'd entered. You know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's over the moon to hear I hadn't even fucking stood in a stand-up paddleboard.
Never stood. No, he knew that day. Like I introduced. I can't remember what the other guy's name was, but there was 4 people in one of the races, and I came third. And the guy that I beat I think he was a lot older than me.
You still came third?
But I came third, and the guys that were organising it made me get up in the Pierhead Hotel and accept the bronze medal, and I was like,
Brilliant. So, Ricky Martin, who we are going to hopefully have on a future Tiki session,
Good guy,
is a great guy. Ash used to work for him. I know Ricky really well. He's donated something or given something across to you recently?
he's borrowed us or lent us a cargo e-bike.
It's a Reese Miller job. Is this one of these e-bikes?
I think it's the battery unit's by Bosch. I'm not
Sweet.
sure who actually makes
cool.
the bike itself, but yeah, it's really fun to ride about on. I was out on it all last weekend, lifting rubbish around town. I don't know.
And does it have a basket on the front of it?
It's got a big cargo basket in the front of it.
Alright,
It's like
cool.
it'll take like maybe 100 kilos or
I
something.
think it can hold up to 100. He had me in at one point running around Ballywillen, so he was flying around Ballywillen and I was in the front wetting myself, but he thought it was
Wow.
hilarious. And like I am 90 kilos and he was like, old Ricky Martin isn't the fittest chap in the world, so I really, he was flying around Ballywillen.
We are still trying to get him
No, he's
onto the
definitely
Tiki
coming on. He
session.
has to come on.
He has to come on now
Otherwise,
to
I'm
challenge that
gonna
one.
get ribbed every time we do this.
And, you know, that bike's obviously great for you going around.
Yeah, it's amazing to get around the town. So I went to White Rocks on it one day, did a litter pick, did a little bit of sand art, and I was just blown away. I think I lifted a bin bag full of litter on the way over to White Rocks and a bin bag full on the way back, and I didn't burn any diesel taking my van there, which was just a really lovely thing, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I think I think the way that it's marketed, so like for the bigger hotels, they're using these cargo bikes. You can put a keg in the front. So like if you've got a difference, but like if you've got a stock room, a good 500 meters away, you can throw a keg in it and cycle down or whatever. So it is. They're legit. They're proper. It's really cool actually. So
I actually went on an electric bike. I'd cycled to Portrush one day and I was cycling back and the guy I was with was on an electric bike. And you know that hill coming out of West Strand up towards leaving Portrush there if you're heading towards Port Stewart.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a bitch of a hill to cycle up. And he was like, try the electric bike. And I was like, the whole way up, I was like, these things are fantastic. So
Yeah.
they are, you know. And, you know, electric cars and all that are starting to come up now as well. And they're getting more popular. And then
I've got a battery chainsaw.
battery chainsaw.
Who would have thought that a professional arborist would have endorsed a battery chainsaw? But
will that go through?
I won one in I think it was 2017 climbing championships that I was doing in Ireland. Husky had put up some amazing prizes that year, and I won a battery chainsaw, and it goes.
Wow.
Sweet.
It's one of my
funny,
favourite
like,
saws.
My dad's just bought an electric lawnmower, and it's great that that's progressing, and obviously electric cars and stuff like that. I never would have thought a chainsaw could be replaced by. That's amazing.
And just before we finish up then, Dave, you're climbing. What sort of heights are we talking here?
Oh, there's a few heights that I probably shouldn't mention, to be quite honest. On some buildings and stuff, but yeah, and some towers. But in trees, around about 200 foot whenever I was living in New Zealand.
Wow.
Just a little bit over 200 foot. Some of my biggest fells of trees were plus 200 foot.
In New Zealand?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you're obviously, you know, anybody climbing that height, you have to be fit to do it.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is where like all my juggling and like I bought a unicycle recently as well. I have to get on it at some stage. But the juggling, the bodyboarding, it's all
Your yoga and stuff
the
like
yoga
that.
and stuff. It's all core strength. It all leads into me, I think, staying safe at work.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Because we have to be agile and we have to be fit to do my job.
And have you ever been up that height and sort of, like, I know if I was up 200 foot, like, that's a hell of a height, like, you know what I mean? It's like we're talking to Hanno and we're talking about big wave surfing. I was like, what's the biggest wave you surfed? He's like, oh, just 40 or 50 foot. I was like, no, that's insane. And like, for me to climb a tree, even as a kid, 20 foot would be scary, if you know what I mean. You're going 10 times that. So what is it like whenever you're up there? Are you just up there? And again, I know your personality. I'm sure you're up there and you've got a job to do, but I'm sure you also take that moment to embrace the fact that you're up there and what you can see and the earth around you.
I've had some scary moments.
Yeah.
Like, I've had some proper scary sessions up trees where I haven't done the right thing, and we all make mistakes. So I think I've learned a lot from those, and I've been very, very lucky. And I guess some people aren't just quite as lucky with those moments in our industry. But yeah, I guess we just have to take it minute by minute in life sometimes, don't we?
That's it.
But it's sort of the risk assessment. You spoke at the very start. It's coming sort of full circle when you talk about when you plan and you've done all the risk assessments and you've got the experience and you've got confidence in your own ability too. Obviously accidents happen, but you know that you're not up there just for the crack. You've been there. You've put.
Well, if you listen to some of my videos and on YouTube, you'll see that whenever I'm singing and I'm whistling up a tree, that's probably the safest I am, because I'm so I must be so relaxed. I'm not singing or whistling to show off to anybody.
Yeah.
But it's like that guy that I saw whenever I was 14.
Yeah.
He was having the time of his life.
Yeah.
And he was still concentrating on his job, but yeah, nice and relaxed.
Just being outdoors, man. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
So what's the future hold?
For me, I don't know. I was thinking about this recently. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay on the North Coast, to be quite honest. I've always moved about every 2 or 3 years. In my life, I haven't really stayed anywhere for any massive length of time. And much as I love the North Coast and love all the people here and stuff, yeah, I've got itchy feet.
Yeah.
Man, you remember me bodyboarding when I was young. When I was young.
When you were young.
Have you not been here a long time, no?
I've been here and been away and been back.
But you
and
always come back.
I always come back, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go to Cornwall. I've never spent any massive amount of time in Cornwall or Devon. There's some amazing waves.
Some amazing ways, but
some amazing
the fear of
forests.
alienating a whole county. I don't know if you'll like Cornwall folk, man.
Really? I've met a few.
All right, okay.
But maybe I've met the ones that travel, I don't know.
Yeah. And Cornwall in the heat of summer is the worst place to be.
Right.
Probably off season, it's beautiful and the people are lovely.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's like Portrush times 10 on a busy
Oh,
bank
really?
holiday August.
So I know heaps of arborists from the south
Cool.
of England, and I think I'll be well looked after.
Awesome, man.
Well, listen, wherever you go, Dave, you'll always be happy and you'll always take Jennifer with you.
Definitely.
Exactly. Listen, buddy, thanks so much for coming on tonight. It's
Hey,
been a
thank you
pleasure.
guys for having
Cheers,
me.
Dave.
All right, cheers.